Insider.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Speedrun Insider. I'm your host CJitsallGewd. Joining me this week, the creator of Speedrun Explained, the Fallout Anthologist himself, tomatoanus, formerly known as Tomato Angus, or maybe known at one time as Tomato Angus. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. Yes. How about you?
Oh, I'm living the dream. As I can see out my little tiny window, it's getting dark, but it's still really hot outside. So
Very nice.
we're vibing.
But yes, for the name, it just depends on what kind of channels you're going through. What I'm referred to as.
Oh, of course. So in the public sphere, you are collectively known as Tomato Angus, but when you're on camera, it's like Schrodinger's cat, right? It's like
Exactly.
you're simultaneously both the Angus and the anus.
Yes.
I know better than to ask you the origin of your name, as evidenced by the video you put out on your channel that had 70 different name origins. But why is it Tomato Anus?
I mean, do you really want to know?
I
can tell you. I can tell you.
I want to know. I don't want to draw away from your mystique, but I'm so curious.
Yeah. No problem. So in college, so it was actually orientation week of college. We were doing like this whole game where we were all split up into different groups, and we had to, as groups, like they would kind of throw out a major topic of like, do like a skit around this, and then like it was like improv in groups to try and get to know each other better. And one of the things was celebrity impressions, and just someone in each group would have to jump up and do a celebrity impression. So there was a football player in my group. He was like an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman or something, just huge person. As soon as they said celebrity impressions, he's like, yo, stand up real quick. So I stood up and he stood up with me, and he grabbed me and he like hurled me over his shoulder. So I was like over his shoulder, and then he went, I'm Lady Gaga, meat suit. So like, because that was a thing at the time, was Lady Gaga and her meat suit.
Of course.
So then for the rest of the day, I was meat suit, and I really wanted to rectify that. I was not a fan of the nickname. So then that night I was talking with one friend who I had made, this dude from a small farm family who grew up with raccoons as pets. I was talking about him. I was like, dude, I don't want to be known as meat suit. So he was like, I mean, it's better than the alternative. I'm like, yeah, it could have like the word anus in it. And then he goes, yeah, like tomatoes or something. I was like, or tomato anus. And it just kind of like got mushed together right there as like kind of a play on the meat suit nickname. And just the name tomato anus kind of lodged itself in my brain then. And I started using it on like Steam and stuff. And I never made the attempt to make that my nickname, because meat suit is a bit more publicly acceptable than tomato anus. So I think as much as shoot myself in the foot, the nickname meat suit might have been in college. Tomato anus would have been much worse to be publicly known as that.
I don't know if that's the truth or if I'm being memed on, but I'm happy either way. If this is the real life, or if this is just fantasy, I am totally fine with it either way. If it's because you made a sculpture, or because, I don't know, Mercury was in retrograde, if it was because being known as meat suit would be a harsher alternative, I'm just happy that you're here with me.
Of course, I'm happy to be here.
Whatever you decide to be called, give yourself a little bit of an introduction for the folks listening at home. Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm usually known as Tomato Anus. I do have several other names. One of my favorites is the Airbud of speedrunning. But I started speedrunning with Fallout 4, and I currently hold the any % world record in that, and have for the majority of the past 3 years. But I've since branched out to the other Fallout games, and recently I guess 7 months ago, ran the Fallout Anthology main series run, which is Fallout 1, 2, 3, New Vegas, and 4, all back-to-back at GDQ. And outside of that, though, I've kind of branched off more into the YouTube content creation sphere. and focusing most of my time on making videos of breaking down speedruns in real time as they're happening and kind of explaining to a general viewer who's never seen the speedrun or maybe even the game played. They've never seen the game played. Try and explain the speedrun to the best of my abilities in real time.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I'm a fan of your series of videos. I don't know if would you call it a show, or is this like a collective of how do you refer to it? I guess.
I don't know. That's a really good question. I've never really thought about it that way. Like, I guess that's kind of like my flagship content at this point has definitely turned into the Speedrun Explained, since that's mostly what I've been putting out for the past year, and people really have taken to it. One of my friends, he described it as just being a portion of the tomatoanus brand, with it being the flagship product of the tomatoanus brand. And then there's like the streams that are a completely different kind of atmosphere. And then there's the Twitter, which is like its own, it's very much its own thing because it's centered around one thing largely, which I don't know if you want to get into that, but yeah.
We're going to come back to this because it's on the list, but I want I want to focus on Speedrun Explained.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would just say it's the kind of content that I would like most to make more of and would like most to be known for, if that makes sense.
So is it fair to say that the Twitch and the YouTube and the all the other experiences that you provide are but celestial objects orbiting the sun that is tomatoanus?
Yes, that's a good way to put it. Exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself. I might have to get that tattooed on my arm.
Listen, do it in kanji so it's way more profound.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't know what the Japanese character for anus looks like, but I also don't want to know.
I'll put it up to you to find out, and then you can send it to me, and then I'll get it done.
If you get it tattooed on the back of your neck, I'll get it tattooed on the back of my neck.
It'd be very cute.
We'll be magic. Strangers in the night passing each other. So I want to ask you about I guess I want to ask you how you made the leap from speedrunner to content creator, because I made a similar leap with the channel that I work on with my friend and partner, CC Neverender, Speed Docs. I'm interested in how that journey was for you and how you ended up where you are now from being the world record holder for Fallout 4. Was it burnout? Was it looking for something else to do? Was it you were trying to explain your own speedrun? Or what was that process and what was that journey like?
Yeah, it's actually, in hindsight, to me, it was a supernatural progression. So I started speedrunning at the start of 2017, and when I was streaming, like, I don't know, like when you think about GDQ, one of the things people love, like everyone loves, is actually getting to see the speedruns get explained, because most of the times if you tune into a stream or watch a YouTube video of a speedrun, the odds are the speedrunner isn't going to be actively explaining all the time. And GDQ is a great experience to watch because that's like one of the few times where almost every single run is explained in depth while you're doing it. And when I was streaming, me and my viewers would always joke around like, oh, we should make this like it was a GDQ run. Because like at that time, the idea of getting into GDQ was kind of a pipe dream with the username tomatoanus. And while I was submitting runs, I kind of had forfeited the idea that I would ever get into a GDQ. So it was just something kind of fun on stream, like starting even early, like spring of 2017, we'd be like, oh, let's make this like we would always call it a heavy commentary run. We'd like, let's do a heavy commentary run this time. So I've probably done commentary in real time over a Fallout 4 any percent run, probably close to 100 times by now. So at this point, like if I have to just on a whim do that commentary in real time, I can just jump right into it because of how many times I've done it. And when I would post my runs to YouTube, because it's Fallout has a really large YouTube audience. Like people go crazy over Fallout runs and Fallout videos and Elder Scrolls videos. There's huge communities where there are YouTubers who have like 1 million subs who only make Fallout videos, only make Elder Scrolls videos. So my videos would naturally get like a couple thousand views and stuff without really doing much in terms of promotion, and really not doing well in the algorithm in the grand scheme of things, that is, because I should look back. Like I am very grateful for getting like 2,000 views on a VOD from 2017. But I would always get comments of people being like, well, I don't get it. What is this? What is that happening? And I was just, every time I'd stream, I'd be like, it'd be nice to put out a YouTube video explaining all these things just so I don't get any comments of people asking a million questions. So it was like originally an idea to put it in a YouTube video because I was doing it so much on stream. And I was like, I should just try and get a record while I was doing it. So then there was like a week where every single run I explained everything I did just in hopes that one of them was the record. And then eventually that happened. I did get a record while I was explaining everything, and that video performed a lot better because people were watching it more. They'd watch longer into it. So viewer retention rates were up and everything like that. And just over time, it was like I found a way to like record my game audio separately. So I did that when I did a grind for like a huge milestone in Fallout 4. And then when that run was accomplished, I then went back and did my commentary in post. And that video blew up. It's like, I think either the most viewed video on my channel still, or maybe second most now, but it's at like 1.6 million views or something.
Wow.
And that made me realize like, oh, there's a really big audience for like explaining speedruns like this just in general. Like, so that was early 2018. And then just since then I was like, okay, I'm going to do Fallout runs. And anytime I get I find a fun run, like something like Sex Percent Anthology, where you do all the games and try and sleep with someone in each of them, or like Fallout New Vegas, all sleeping partners, or speedrun to overdose Mama Murphy in Fallout 4. Like all these are really funny ideas, and explaining them like super seriously with dry humor, it just translates well, because like there's the humor aspect of just the run is an absurd idea, but it's also actually explaining the speedrun, which not a lot of people will actually do in their YouTube videos. Like speedruns are so esoteric. So as I was doing it with more Fallout videos, over time, like my audience on YouTube was growing, and I just realized like I'm gonna run out of Fallout ideas, so I should probably try and branch out into other games like sooner rather than later. So then it was last summer I was learning Doom 2016, and I was like, I'm gonna get a good Doom 2016 run. Then I'm gonna make a video for it. Then I'm gonna learn like Prey 2017. I'm just gonna hop around all these games and learn them and get good at them quick. And then I was like, man, that takes a lot of time, and I work a full-time job. I have nowhere near that amount of time. So instead, I'm actually friends with the person who at the time held the speedrun records in Doom 2016, Prey 2017, and Dishonored. And I reached out to him. I'm like, hey, would you want to do a collaboration where you provide the gameplay and I'll write like a script for commentary for it? And like, I'll pay you for your time, and you can review the script and everything just to make sure it accurately represents the run and you're happy with it representing the run as well. And then I'll put it on my YouTube channel. And he said, yeah, sure. He was like very enthusiastic about it. So then we made 3 videos together, and that was the Doom video that I put out last August, I believe, then Dishonored, which I put out last September, and then Prey, which was last October. And those all performed just magnificently, and it kind of just served as a launching point for covering as many different speedruns as I can.
Right. I mean, yeah, I watched all those videos in preparation for this interview, and I mean, it's cool to see like the growth, right, and like where you started and like how you've ended up where you are now.
Yeah.
But those videos hold up really well. I mean, you had something like kind of from the jump, and you've really, how do I say this? You had something really strong from the start because the idea is really good, and I think you've maintained the integrity of that idea and bolstered it.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, it's very kind.
No, absolutely. So a lot of people, they don't get it right the first couple times. We didn't get it right the first couple times. The first few speed docs are way more difficult to listen or watch or listen to now. Do you find that with your content? Do you have a hard time going back and looking at it?
I have yes. Short answer, yes. Like the first video that is like the Speedrun Explained that I consider to be in the Speedrun Explained series, which is my Fallout 4 in under 40 minutes run. That one I can't go back and watch. It's just like the way I did the commentary was I was like in my college dorm, and I just played the video and recorded my audio while watching it live, which I would never do in a million years ever again for a YouTube video. It's like, there's so many like times where I'm like, and then like there's so many moments like that where it's just, I'm stumbling over myself, and just things don't necessarily, because it's really hard to provide commentary in real time and make sure it's structured in a way that pretty much all the information is delivered succinctly in a way that's like easy to understand, and also is performed in a timely manner. Like I could talk for 20 minutes about one small glitch in Fallout 4, but like if I were to do that, then I miss half the run, or like I'll explain it like, and while I'm explaining it, it'll happen. I'll be like, oh, and by the way, that happened 3 seconds ago.
Right.
That's like one of the key things. Like I'll never do that again. So like looking back at that old video, I have a hard time watching it. But even with like the newer videos, I do have one video that I've put out in the past year that I've collaborated with another runner on that I don't know. I think I just kind of lost sight of how I originally went about writing the script and what I had in mind and the certain things I focused on. And I think I just focused on the wrong aspects of explaining in that video. And to me, if I could delete one video from my channel and just completely redo it, it would probably be that one. But I won't, just because I feel like it's a product of not only my own, but also the runner. So it's not just mine to have on the platform. It's also the runners to have on the platform as well. And I feel like it would be doing a disservice to the runner and also being a bit disrespectful that I take down the video that we made together, even though it's a product that they're happy with as well. So I think it's just holding myself to high standards, you know?
Talk to me a little bit about your process. You talked about Doom, you talked about Dishonored, you talked about Prey, those being games that are a product of the fact that you knew the world record holder at the time.
Mm-hmm.
What is your selection process? Is it focused around the algorithm? Is it personal interest? Is it what you think would be the most interesting for the video? Like, how do you select which games you're going to cover for your videos?
There's a lot that goes into picking a game for a video. Like it is kind of a balance of all the three things you mentioned, probably the least emphasis on the algorithm. Like obviously I need to have a personal interest in the run because otherwise I won't be able to get myself to dedicate time to the video. But that being said, I do find most speedruns incredibly fascinating, so there aren't really many runs that wouldn't fall under that criteria. But I do think that the most important thing is picking a run that is it'll sink its hooks into you really quick. Or if someone just like kind of will skip around the video to a random spot, they'll see something interesting and be like, oh, what's that? Okay, I gotta watch this video. And I think a really good example of that is Mirror's Edge. Like when I first started making these videos, that was the run that I was like, I one day want to make a run or a video about that run because it's just such a visually engaging run. There's so much to it. It's so deep, but it was so deep. I was really intimidated by it, and I didn't tackle it for like a solid 6-7 months after starting to really focus and set my sights on other games. But I'm looking at it right now. I have a spreadsheet of a bunch of games that I'd like to make a video on in the future with like the category. In terms of time constraints for the category, like ideally more than 10 minutes. That's kind of the really only time I'll factor in the algorithm, unless it's like a run like Untitled Goose Game, which was like the hot run of last like November. So I had to make a video about that. And it's super short, so I was able to pump it out pretty quickly. I guess pump it out's not really good terminology because it makes it seem like I didn't really put a lot of effort into it, which isn't true. But yeah, it's definitely selecting the game is like kind of like the biggest part of it. But the time for the run, like I was saying, like more than 10 minutes is ideal. I think the perfect length in terms of watchability, and also I won't lose my sanity while making the video, is somewhere in the 20 to 30 minute range. But once it starts getting higher up there in time, like I made a video on Battle for Bikini Bottom, and that runs like an hour 15, and that took a lot of effort. I'm super happy with the results, but it's by far the longest video that I made that wasn't a run of my own. And it took a lot out of me making that video. And originally I was planning on doing an any percent run, which is like 40 minutes. I was like, oh, that seems like a good one. Like a good, like it's Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's one of the most popular speed games. I had no doubt in my mind that it'd make for a great video, especially being somewhat familiar with the run. And I reached out to Shift. I'll talk about the whole process of reaching out to people in a moment, but I reached out to Shift about it. He's like, oh, if you're going to make a video, you want to do 100%. So I was like, oh man, that's like another 35 minutes. That's almost double the length. But I trusted his judgment, and I was like, in hindsight, like I'm so glad I did, because that run is just incredible. But yeah, so like the whole process for it is, once I've kind of mulled around in my brain with what run I'd like to make a video on, I'll like obviously do some research on it, make sure it would make for a good explanation, because some games I don't think lend themselves well to explaining runs in the way I do. Like my favorite speedrun to watch is Super Mario 64, but I don't think I'll ever be able to make a video on that because, okay, if I make like a 70-star category video or a 120-star category video, I'd have a very hard time explaining it in a way that is engaging, because a lot of the time is, all right, we're going to come in and we're going to platform in this way and collect the star. And then we go back in and platform a little bit more and collect the star. So it has to it has to be able to be a varied enough kind of commentary. And that was actually something I was afraid of going into Battle for Bikini Bottom, because that run is it's a collectathon game. So I was a bit apprehensive before pulling the trigger on actually making that video, because a lot of it is, and then we go over here and collect this spatula, and then we collect this spatula. But there is a lot more to that game, with like the physics mechanics and just the like all the crazy stuff with like the clipping through stuff by pressing stuff on certain frames as you're falling. It's just crazy. But yeah, so when I finally pick a game and a category, I'll do some research on like the top runners. Usually I'm familiar with the runs though, and the runners. And I'll typically reach out to the world record holder. I say typically because I haven't had this case yet, but there's a game I'd like to do in the future where the world record holder is, I'm pretty sure that they don't speak English, or if they do, they're not very strong in the language. And part of the video making process involves a lot of revising scripts. So
Right.
that there's a kind of a clash there, like just a too much of a language barrier to do. So I would reach out to probably the highest ranked English speaker, but I'll reach out to that person. I have like a very long outreach message, and I'll just contact them and say, hey, not sure if you're familiar with who I am. Here's my YouTube channel. This is the kind of content I like making. I'm really, really interested in making a video about this run. Like, and I'll like make a note which run it is, and I'll kind of explain my intentions behind it. Like, I'll say that like my goal is to, here's what will happen. You record the video of the run. We can segment it if you'd like, whatever works best for you. Just record the run when you have free time. Send it to me. I'll do all the research. I'll write a full script, and then I'll send it to you for review. So, and then we go through revisions where you correct anything that's wrong or kind of change the wording on things, because most of the time these people have a lot of experience explaining things, so they might know how certain wordings might make things easier to understand. Or like if they say, hey, this doesn't really represent the game well, can you change this, or stuff like that. Just kind of trying to arrive at a place where we're both really happy with how it represents the game. And when I initially reach out to them, I make sure it's clear that my goal is to try and take this speed run and make it digestible to someone who's never seen the run or maybe even the game. Like, I want it to be as approachable as possible. I want it to do a service to not only the speed run, but you as a runner and the community of people who have built up the run to where it is. My main goal is just making sure that I do the run justice. And I want the video to be as good as possible and represent the run as well as possible. I'll reach out to them, and so far, I have a pretty high success rate with people agreeing. Only one person never got back to me. But then, like I said, they'll record the run, they'll send it to me, I'll write the script, which, depending on the run or how many resources there are, can take a couple of days. It took me like 3 weeks to write the script for the SpongeBob video, which that script was 20,000 words initially and 54 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
So like the scripts are really, really beefy, because I write to include too much information, because it's easier to cut out sections to better fit like the narrative of the video and the narrative of the commentary. It's easier to cut that out and have it all already approved and cut stuff out, rather than have to then say, hey, I need to add a bit of commentary for this part. How is this sound? How's this? And it's just better as well for the runner to see, oh, okay, we have pretty much all the info that could be talked about included. So pretty much I'll overwrite and spend a lot of time writing. And that's really like where the video comes together, I think, is the writing process. Because also it's like pretty much the entire video when you see it, none of it's ad-libbed. Maybe like some lines will be ad-libbed if there's like a space for comedy, but almost every single line is completely scripted. Every single joke is completely scripted, like weeks ahead of time. And like I'll include like in the script, it'll be like a good example of what I'm about to explain is like in this SpongeBob video, there's a part where SpongeBob is going down one of the slides, and the SpongeBob's animation is he rides down on his tongue. And I make a joke about how like it's really weird that he's just licking up all this sand, but it sounds like he likes it, because I noticed that at that part in the video, there's a line where SpongeBob does an Arnold Schwarzenegger impression and is like, "This is a job for the Spongeinator," or something like that. So like in the script, it says like it's written down to a moment where like written down to the exact cue of like it says this, and then in parentheses like short beat to hear SpongeBob say this line, or like in my Oblivion video, I wrote this one line. At one part, you go and you kill two people by just punching them real quick. And I wrote the script so that it's like we hit them with a mean left hook, and then there's just a short beat where there's no commentary. Like in the script, it'll say like beat for like just the punch sound. So it's like really written down to every single moment's completely scripted out. Once that's done, then I send it to the runner for review. They'll completely read through it, make tons and tons of notes, as I hope they would. I tell them to nitpick. I tell them to nitpick harder than they've ever nitpicked anything before, make sure it's as accurate as possible. And then I'll go through, I'll make changes to the script based on it. I'll address the notes, send it back to them. They make more notes. We go back and forth until the script gets to a point where we're happy with it. And then I say, all right, I'm going to peace out for a week and do all the commentary. And then I do the actual commentary and edit the video as I go along, because I actually edit the script a lot while I'm performing the commentary, because I have to change the tense of things or maybe reorganize some sentences depending on how they flow with the gameplay. But that's something that the videos have much more become focused on, is making sure things are being explained as they're happening or right before they're happening. Right. Or like if I wrote something in the script to be taking place after something happening, it's like, okay, so, or like as something's happening, like here we go and do this, and then we do that. And then like as I'm recording, I'm like, oh shit, I'm like 10 minutes or 10 seconds early. Then I'll change it to like, here we're going to do this, going to do that. So I have to change the tenses of everything while I'm going along. So the scripts are pretty fluid as I'm going along, but commentary process, once that's all done, I put together the video as like a final product. I send it to the runner. They go through, they make notes, they make timestamps, because there's often things that slip through the cracks when recording commentary, or they're like, hey, I don't think that this worked. Hey, I don't think, like I've had a runner, I'll say it's Seeker. He is the runner for, he's my friend who runs Doom and Dishonored and Prey. He has incredible eye and ear for commentary and explaining things. Like you wouldn't be able to tell because he largely will stream without mic. But he just has a really good knack for, hey, this isn't working. Hey, this isn't really palatable to like someone who hasn't seen the run before. So they'll send me notes about how it actually translated to a video, and then I'll make the changes to the video and send it back to them. So it's a really fluid process with the runner, because I want to make sure that the runner's comfortable with the video that we put out. I want to make sure that they're happy with how it represents both of themselves as a runner and the game as a speed run. So it's a long process, and a lot of work goes into it by several parties, but pretty happy with the results so far.
Absolutely. I mean, I really appreciate your attention to detail and making sure that specifically that the runner themselves is really happy with the end result. I won't say what video it is, and I won't say who made the video, but there is a video. It's a very popular speedrun video, and the video is completely inaccurate.
Oh no.
Sorry. There is a section of the video that's completely inaccurate. It's because they did their research by looking at what other people had created without conferring with runners.
I think I might know what you're talking about.
Yes. So if you do that, like that is a really easy way to make a fast video.
Yes.
Like totally. The resources made by runners, and I do envy this about what you do versus what I do. There is a universal truth in tricks and explanation Like, we do this because we have to do this, this, and this. Because of the logic of video games and, like, speedruns and how we're, like, we have to do the bare minimum to complete something,
Mhm.
or, like, the way a glitch works, there's absolution in what that is that you're doing.
Totally.
Or why you're doing that. As opposed to, like, narrative, where it's like, oh, this person said this. It's like, that's not true. It's like, we did this for this reason. No, we didn't. It's like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, girls, you're both pretty. All right, you know, it's really frustrating. I appreciate your attention to detail. We're the same way. We want to make sure everyone's happy with the content. If the runners aren't gonna own it, what's the point, right? What's the point of making a Mirror's Edge video if all of the Mirror's Edge people are like, that's bullshit?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Like I was saying, like to me, I would never make a video explaining a run without the runner signing off on it first or agreeing to be part of it, because I want to make sure that like I don't want to be someone who makes content like kind of, I don't want to say like uses communities for content or uses speedruns for content, because I don't want.
There are people that do that for sure.
Yeah, there are people that do that, but also there are people who do make videos about like the different communities and speedruns and don't necessarily do it in a way of using them for content. Like they are involved in communities and whatever. But I just want to make sure over the top that, hey, I'm not doing this like for myself. Like I'm not doing this to use you guys. I want to make sure that you guys like that it represents you guys as well. I want this to be partly your video too.
Yeah, absolutely. You want them to have ownership.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you have both my admiration. Let me try that again. You have both my admiration and my envy for what you do.
No, thank you.
So I'm very envious of your content. Maybe how much the algorithm loves you too.
I'm surprised that it does, just because every video starts with, "Hey everybody, my name's tomatoanus, also known as Dongus minimus or needle peen," stuff like that.
Yeah, you definitely you definitely get the most mileage. I will say that I think that the algorithm is biased in at least this way, two faces. So you have great thumbnails, and I think that your thumbnails do help you a lot.
Thank you.
There are some people that have shit thumbnails. I'm just going to say that, right? No, you have a lot going for you on your channel. You have a lot going for you. And, you know, I think that I wish that I could do more thumbnails with faces. But at some point, it's like, okay, well, this is a picture of a robot, you know?
Yeah.
Or this is like, this guy doesn't have a face that's worth showing.
Yeah.
So.
That actually means a lot that you enjoy the thumbnails. That's like the one thing that I never get compliments on, but I spend so much time thinking about the thumbnails and making them. Like, when was the first? I think it was around last year. No, it was end of 2018 when I was doing everything. Like a lot of people, when they make speedrunning thumbnails, there's like a million words in them. And I was guilty of this as well. Like if you look back at my old videos, like Fallout Anthology beaten in under 90 minutes speedrun, that's a paragraph in the thumbnail. Like no one's going to read that.
You also have a watch with the time.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Yeah.
There's a time on the watch. Like, yes, let me look at the watch here.
So it was around December of 2018. Then I'm like, I'm just gonna put no words in my next thumbnail. And the video performed really well. Like, granted, it was coming off of like my best performing video ever at the time, but it performed really well. And I was like, that was kind of when I realized like you don't need words in a thumbnail. It's actually better to have a thumbnail that's obviously eye-catching. Like that's what a thumbnail is for. But text isn't necessarily eye-catching, and I don't think enough people realize that. Or I think another important thing is having the thumbnail and the title not necessarily sharing the same information. Like if your thumbnail just says your title in it again, it kind of defeats the purpose of your thumbnail. They do the same job. So I'm kind of the mentality that the thumbnail should kind of just complement the title or what the video is, or if someone just sees it out of the corner of their eyes, like, wait, what's that? And then they're like, because it's like, to me, like one of my favorite examples of it that I've done is my speedrun to Overdose Mama Murphy. The thumbnail is just her on top of like cherry blossoms, and it's like there's nothing to do with the speedrun, but like at the same time it's kind of like a zen image of her, and like she ends up dying in the speedrun, so it kind of complements it. Or just like having contrasting colors in it that are just next to each other, like kind of behind someone. I don't know, like to me the thumbnails are so important, and I just take a lot of pride in them. And to this point, it's like I want to make my thumbnails so if I wanted to, I could use them as a desktop background and I wouldn't be embarrassed by it. That's kind of like my my rule of thumb with thumbnails nowadays.
I think that my overall opinion on thumbnails, I do agree that people use a lot of text in their thumbnails, for sure. It is the proposition of the waiting room. So you're at, like, say you're getting your car repaired, right? And you're in the waiting room, and they have the TV on, and it's always Maury Povich, for whatever reason. It's always, 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 like, some trash TV. You're sitting in this waiting room, the magazines are from 2 years ago, it smells like stale piss and cigarettes, and you're sitting in this room and the TV's on, and either you have to be able to hear the audio from the TV or you have to be able to see the TV. Otherwise it doesn't work, right? So you're in this waiting room, the volume's off. If you don't understand what's happening by just looking at the TV, then it doesn't work, which is why Maury Povich is on all the time, because they're throwing chairs and they're getting thrown off stage and they're crying and they're angry.
Daytime WWE.
Right? It's very emotive.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And if the audio's on, you need to have that same relationship. And I think that correlation goes to text and image versus image in thumbnails. I just was looking at my homepage while you were explaining all that to see, like, let me see, like, would I be more inclined to click on a video that had, like, a thumbnail that had text versus didn't have text? And the number one video that I saw was a Binging with Babish video, of which I am a big fan. And I thought about that, and I was like, yeah, you really can't just show the food. You wouldn't know what it was, right? So in that case, there are things that don't speak for themselves, like onions and ketchup in a bowl. But like the Doom guy, faces really do help. There's a video right next to it where it's Adam Sandler doing the Adam Sandler thing. It's like, okay, well, I might click on this later because this looks Adam Sandler-y, right? I think it's all about the delivery, and it's like, where do expectations meet reality?
Yeah.
It's like, if you can understand, like, there's a Cardi B video where she's licking something. I kind of have an idea of what's going on there.
Yeah.
Right? That's the Cardi B thing. She doesn't need to tell me, Cardi B licks the screen. It's like, well, I kind of... That might speak for itself.
Yeah.
We've spent a lot of time talking about your content, and if you are welcome back anytime to talk about your content in the future, 100%. I will swap scars and share war stories with you. But I want to talk a little bit about your speed games. You did mention at the top of the show that you speedrun most of the Fallout games, the Anthology, New Vegas, Fallout 4 was your first one, and Fallout 3. I mean, I'm seeing videos from all of these games, right? I think I would guess, and I don't have your SRC profile pulled up in front of me, I'm going to guess that you might have done a token Outer Worlds speedrun at some point.
Yes. I was actually second place in Outer Worlds on, like, the 5th day it was out or something like that.
Yeah. I really, like, New Vegas as, like, a casual game vibed with me on, like, a spiritual level.
Yeah.
That game speaks to me so much because I love the West and I love that whole aesthetic. So I've played that game casually, like, a dozen times. I've done every tree, I've done all the quests, I've done everything you can do in that game a dozen times over. What is it about these games? Because I know what makes them great casual experiences, right? There's an immersion, especially in the older games, and maybe they lost it a little bit in Fallout 4, but that's neither here nor there. What is it about these games that makes them great speed games? I guess if you were going to pitch me a Fallout game to speedrun, which one would it be and why?
Oh, that's such a... All right. Here's
Kill your darlings, please.
All right. That's so hard because man, you really just threw me into the fire with that question.
Which baby are you gonna throw out with the bathwater?
Yeah. All right. If you had to speed run one of them, and you're not like, because it's very common for people to join the Fallout speedrunning Discord, like, hey, which one should I run? Like, I'm getting into speedruns, or here's what I'm looking for, and you have a bit more context, but no context.
Well, how about this? I really like New Vegas.
Okay.
So New Vegas and newer. I don't want to do a point and click.
Okay. So like 3 New Vegas and 4, since those are all the 3D ones.
Sure.
Well, it depends what you're looking for.
All right, Fallout 4. Damn it.
So here's why I have a very hard time. Is they're all so different. You'd think, oh, they're all Fallout games. They're all going to be super similar in speedruns. No, they're all so different. Like Fallout 4's on an updated version of the engine, so it's its own beast. It's it's like there's a meme that I've seen sent in the Fallout speedrunning community where it kind of pokes fun at how simple the 3 in New Vegas speedruns are. And then the Fallout 4 speedrun, you need to memorize like 3 Bibles of speedrunning of knowledge because of how in-depth that run is. It's just such a broken game. Oh, I love it. But like Fallout 3 is like a very straightforward, like you do one hard glitch and then you walk really fast across the wasteland to a couple different places, and it's very much just do one hard glitch up front, and then it's pretty chill up until the very end when you choke a couple clips. And then like New Vegas, you turn into an airplane for like the first 5 minutes of it. So they're all so different. But if I had to recommend one, I think New Vegas is probably all around. There's the most to it in terms of like if you want to do the world record any percent route, you're going to be kind of railroaded into using the glitch called infinite dash that turns you into a plane, but it's not the most friendly glitch because you do have to spam quick save quick load during it. And New Vegas, when you quick load, you do get a loading screen. It's not just like a flash of black or white like in Fallout 3. And it's like it really is a strain on the eyes. So like that's why and it's a flashing screen. So that's why when I ran Anthology at GDQ, I was sure to say, hey, close your eyes if you have epilepsy or like very serious eye strains, because this is like a really bad moment to be watching if you do. Right. So aside from that, like you don't have to do that glitch. If you don't want to do that glitch, you could still do reload dashing, which is a glitch which with so much depth to it. And it's a very similar glitch, except it's just not infinite and you don't have to spam quick save quick load. So there's a lot of depth to the run if you just take away that glitch, if you just choose to run without it, which a lot of people will, just a brief tangent, a lot of people will be like, oh, why would I speedrun with something that isn't a world record track? Because that's not what speedrunning is about. You speedrun to have fun. If you don't like a strat, don't do it, you know?
Right.
If your goal isn't necessarily, like, your goal shouldn't be world record. Your goal should be to have fun. And if you find that glitch to ruin the run without the glitch. Like, no one's stopping you. You can still have a lot of fun. That run without infinite dash is still a really crazy run, and reload dashing is really cool. And even if you don't like reload dashing, then you can go back to 2015 and do the strats from then before reload dashing was found, and it's still a really interesting run. Like there's just so many, like there's several movement glitches in that run that make it like a different run for each time you implement a new one. So I just think that there's a good amount of depth to that as a speed game, and the alternate categories, there's just so much to it as well. So it's just a really deep one.
I think you've sold me, both through your content on your channel, but also through this explanation right now. I think I'm going to become an airplane and sleep with everyone that I possibly can.
Hey, no one's done an all sleeping partners run with the infinite dash glitch yet, so it's up for grabs.
Is that free? I think that sounds like you're telling me it's free.
I mean, my record is, I'm pretty sure, let me see. I have speedrun.com up. I think I have the record in it still. If I do, the record's pretty free. Let me see. Yeah. Oh no, never mind. The record's not anymore free. 2 weeks ago, it was taken back by Kung Cobra, who's like he's like the main New Vegas guy throughout the past decade. So
what you're saying is not free. Don't try.
I would say not super free, because I don't hold the world. Pretty much anything I hold the world record in, it's free. So
okay. Well, I gotta say, I wrote a really big check, and I was afraid I was gonna have to cash in, but then Kung Cobra came to my aid in my hour of need. So thank you, Kung Cobra.
Kung's a great dude.
Mensch. I appreciate you. Here we go. Shout out to him. Man, so what does the future hold for you? Like, what do you got going on? Like, what are you looking forward to next? What's the next big thing?
Right now, just focusing on YouTube for a long time. So my last Fallout 4 any percent video, like strictly Fallout 4 any percent on my channel from early 2018. And I mentioned earlier that was like the video that took off for me. And I've been wanting to update that video because it's super outdated. But over the past year and a half, every time I get a run I'm happy with and I'm going to make a video about, new stuff was found. But the game is in a lull right now. I just grinded for 2 months. I took 2-month break from working on YouTube to grind out a run for this video. So my immediate goal is finishing up that video. I've been working really hard on it. Maybe it'll be out by the time this podcast is up. Who knows? But after that, then just mostly focusing on YouTube for the time being, probably the next 6 months at least or so. I have a handful of videos I really want to make, handful of Speedrun Explained. a couple videos that aren't Speedrun Explained, but are in the same vein of content. And then I do have like 2 speedruns I want to do, but don't really know when I'll get around to it yet. I have a run that I want to submit to GDQ that I need to do first. And I'm kind of keeping it secret on what that is. A few people have already figured it out because it's kind of a common sense thing to me. Like the anthology run went better than I ever could have hoped, but I kind of blew my wad and did everything I knew in one run. So it's like it's a really tricky predicament trying to figure out what to submit for like the next GDQs and stuff. So I didn't submit anything for SGDQ. I didn't have anything to submit because I did everything I know in one run. So I've been doing some thinking about, okay, what would be a good run to do that isn't just like, I don't know, I'm an entertainer by nature. I like doing something that isn't necessarily cookie cutter. Like I could go up and just run any of the individual Fallouts or any like any random category. Like I could go up and do like a glitchless run or like one of the meme categories we have. But to me, it just wouldn't feel special. It wouldn't feel unique. To me, that would just feel like another speed run. So I have an idea for another outside of the box type of run that hasn't really been featured at GDQ that I'd like to do. So going to be doing some runs of that in the near future and probably offline so people don't see what it is until I submit. But yeah, we'll see. I don't
Your
think
commitment to your commitment to keeping it secret is actually really interesting, and it makes me super excited for when you finally do your reveal and submit it to GDQ.
I don't think they're gonna accept it. I'm just gonna preface it with that. But
hey, listen, if you don't get into GDQ, you can always submit it to my speedrunning.
Very true, very true. Except I'm not sure. We'll see. Maybe you won't even want to accept it.
I gotta say, you were talking earlier about you got really far into the process and hadn't had anyone really tell you, like, no, I don't really want to participate, right? With your Speedrun Explained. Yep. So we've had a few people say that they weren't interested, but eventually came around. When I was working on Speedoxathon, it started off as a joke because I had wanted to do this forever, but I had just, it's like, okay, another project to put on the scrap heap, right? And so I was like, okay, we will, you know what? I'm just going to go until someone tells me to stop or say no. Speeddox is a business and there's other people involved, so it was like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And they're like, go for it, dude. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I need to find a channel to stream it. Oh, yeah, we got that. Oh, well, I need to find someone to run all the tech. Sure. Oh, damn. So I got super deep into the process, like to the point where I was reaching out to runners. I'm going to out you, by the way. I was reaching out to runners to see if they would be interested in participating. And one of the very first people, the first person to tell me no was Clint Stevens. The second person to tell me no was Mr. Tomatoanus.
I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. I thought it was funny. It's like we're talking about people eventually saying no. So next time with your super secret game, your top sneaky game that won't get into GDQ, I'll take anything. I'll let you play that light socket game. You ever see that game on Steam?
No, I haven't.
It's I forget the name. It's a Steam game where it's basically to the extent that you have to plug in, but the plugs are people.
What?
And so some people have prongs and you have to like plug into each other. It's a little erotic to some people, not me. It's a little weird and off the beaten path. If you haven't seen the game,
plug and play. Oh, this is
plug and play.
I don't like how this looks.
There has to be a speedrun of this game.
I don't like that. They look so creepy.
Yep. Sometimes the plug is on their head.
That's just unsettling.
There is a speedrun for it.
Oh no.
For those of you out there at home that want to play, you can. It is on Steam and iOS. And the world record for any percent held by Fofinho is 3 minutes, 56 seconds, and 500 milliseconds on PC. So that's a free shout out.
I'm going to have
the plug and play community. What do you mean you don't want to speedrun this game now?
They look disgusting to me. I don't know. I get weirded out with this kind of stuff. Like
I will give you $50 American if you make a speedrun.
Not worth it. Not worth it. The trauma that would induce upon me, not worth it.
We talked a little bit about GDQ. We've talked about you blew your wad the Fallout Anthology at last Awesome Games Done Quick. What was your experience like for GDQ? The overwhelming thing about that I've talked with people about when they are on the stage of GDQ, Tasselfoot I think put it kind of the best. He said it's like being a rock star. How is that experience? Does that correlate? Does that sentiment echo your experience? Does that match it? Did you feel differently? Like, what was your experience? How did it meet your expectations?
That's a good question. I think so. As a whole, GDQ experience terrific, awesome time getting to meet everyone and meet people in person and socialize with people in person that I've only talked to online and stuff like that. Reach out socially to more speedrunners I've never met, stuff like that. But like in terms of the actual run, I don't know. It's such a weird experience to me. Like I don't know what it is. Like maybe I'm just messed up chemically on the inside, but I'm not one to get nervous. And when I was actually on stage, like I think so my run was right after the Sonic block. I was the first run after the Sonic block. And
Right.
the crowd was packed for the Sonic block. And when I got onto the stage, because there's like 15 minutes of prep, and there was a lot of tech prep that went into the anthology run because I had to install and down patch and make sure 5 games were all running optimally, make sure I had all the third-party software for capping certain things and making things run smoothly. Here's something they don't tell you. Those computers, like they have admin passwords and admin locks, so they make sure you don't install anything bad. And I had to literally get someone from tech to sit with me for 40 minutes and just type the password like 22 times. Because of all the different things I had to install. So
Right.
when the Sonic block ended, and like I was back in makeup because they put the anti-shine stuff on you. Like the crowd was clearing out. I like saw some friends who were like filtering in and were sitting like at the front couch and stuff like that. And the crowd was pretty empty. So that was when I sat down and turned around and started focusing on getting the run set up and make sure all the tech was good. And I think I was just so wrapped up in making sure it went smoothly because it was like the first anthology run or like multi-game run by one person as far as I'm aware at a GDQ. So I think I was just so wrapped up mentally with trying to make sure that it went smoothly on a tech side and wasn't a disaster on that front. So then they don't say, all right, well, that was a disaster. We're never doing that again. Because there are a lot of other people who run anthology versions of and do anthology runs of their series. And I don't want to do an awful job and discount their submissions for the rest of time. So I just was super focused on trying to make sure that side of it went smoothly. So I didn't really focus too much on the actual run going into it. And then like mentioning other runners, like one of the people on my couch, Blood Thunder, he does BioShock anthology runs, and he always submits those for GDQ. So I wanted to make sure that the run went smoothly, so in the future he can get in because that's a really cool run. But I don't know, like right before the run, I wasn't super focused on what like was actually happening in the moment, and then during the run, I was just super focused on making sure I did the Fallout community proud. I didn't really take in what was happening around me in terms of like the rock star feeling or just being on the stage. And I think because this is something that a lot of people don't know. If you watch the event live, you probably were aware, but the donation tracker went down during my run. And we were with,
Oh, really?
yeah. So we had donations for Fallout 1 and 2, which is like 20 minutes in a 2-hour run. And at the start of Fallout 3, the donation tracker went down. We couldn't get any donations in. So I did not have the ability to go like lean on donations whenever I had time to fill. And I had a lot of like, I don't script or rehearse or anything just because I've done the commentary for the run so many times. I just kind of was winging it. But like I kind of had in my mind, like, okay, this is a part where there's going to be a lull, so we can just throw it to donations or whatever. I just kind of had a ballpark in my head of how it was going to play out.
Yeah.
And
you didn't have that.
Exactly.
You didn't have that.
Yeah. So it's at the start of Fallout 3. It's after I do speed cripple and I'm running along. You'll see me, like, if you watch the run back, I look over to Edo Bean. It was Edo Bean and Yellow Killer Bee. Edo Bean was on mic and running donations. Because the donation tracker went down, then YKB came over and started helping her because YKB's done it a ton. I believe that was Edo Bean's first run being a donation reader. So kind of getting thrown into the fire on that. But I look over to them like a couple times, like, do we have the donation? Because I say donations, or like, do we have a donation? We can do it. And then like, there's a silence, and I look over and they're shaking their head at me. I'm like, oh no. And then by that point, I kind of like, at that moment, I realized like, okay, we don't have donations right now. So then for the rest of Fallout 3, I'd look at them, be like, if we have any donations, and they, every time they'd say like, no, they'd shake their head like, we don't have them yet. And like, they were like, Edo Bean was panicking because it was her first run. YKB was a bit more relaxed, but
Right.
it was just like, there was like a 5-minute span in the Fallout 3 run where it was kind of chaos on our side. And I think it was in that moment where Blood Thunder and Covert, they're like GDQ veterans. They were both on the couch. It was Blood Thunder, Covert Muffin, and Shero. Blood Thunder and Shero's run was right after mine, and he was pretty nervous going into it, so he didn't talk too much during the run. He's like more of a quiet dude anyways, but he was definitely trying to get in the zone and whatnot. So it was mostly Blood Thunder and Covert providing support commentary. I think they realized right then, like, okay, we don't have donations, and right then, like, they started like, Blood Thunder especially was like poking fun more at the runs and he started asking me questions about, so how'd I start running the games? And at that point, the run turned more into trying to focus on making sure it went right, to it kind of just had the feel for me of just hanging out with some friends and doing the run. And kind of just the fact that it was on a big stage kind of lapsed my mind. And I know that you might be like, okay, then why'd you bring out the prop and stuff like that? Like that's just who I am. I do that kind of stuff in real life. I'm like, even when I'm just hanging out with friends, like in real life, I do stuff like that. I just am a showman to that aspect. But no, the run, it didn't feel much like a on-stage event for me after, like, from Fallout 3 on. It just very much felt like just chilling with some buds trying to explain something to the internet.
So it's almost like the donation tracker going down kind of gave you so much more freedom to just be like,
definitely.
Like, it took off all that pressure of like, oh, I got to make this community proud. I want to make sure that it's a good showing. I want to make sure, and then it just becomes like, we're just out here playing.
Yeah, definitely, in a sense. Yeah. And then after the Fallout 3 run, I had gotten so used to not throwing it over to them donations. I had kind of accepted that the donations were off, that I just went into full on my talking mode, which I'll often get into when I'm explaining stuff, where I just won't stop talking for however long. So that's kind of like the zone I was in for the rest of the run, just talking with my friends nonstop.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, I think you made the best of what could have been a bad situation. There are some people who, in that situation, it would have been crickets.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, it's so tied to their thing, and you really need people. I think that's really one of the things that I think is important for GDQ. You need people in that moment that can really vamp and improvise and get you out of situations like that, because that would be devastating.
Yeah,
that scares the shit out of me. The idea that could happen during an event that I'm hosting, that's terrifying.
I'm pretty sure that was like the one time that it's ever happened. So don't worry, it probably won't ever happen to anything on your end.
Oh, you won the loser lottery then.
Yeah, no.
You won the lottery from New Vegas.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, exactly. I won. Well, no, don't you want to win that lottery, because then you survive, right?
I like the guy that gets the second place and he's really pissed off, and you bring him the drugs and he's still pissed off at you. I was like, come on, man. I just brought you all this medicine. Like, come on. I didn't do this.
But no, the GDQ run, it was a terrific experience. And then so like I was saying at the beginning, when I sat down and turned around, like there was like no one in the crowd because people were shuffling out. And then it was during my Fallout 4 run when I was having Covert Muffin put on all the pants. At one point I looked back to him to like look at all the pants, and I just see the crowd's full. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell? When did this happen? So it was just like, it didn't really sink in until afterwards. And as soon as my run ended, then I went up to a friend. I was like, I just hope people liked it. And they're like, yeah, no, Twitter's in love with you right now. You did good. Don't worry. So
yeah, man.
Yeah,
he did a great job. That was a great run.
Yeah, I mean,
and now all this extra context, I mean, that it makes it even better.
Yeah, it's definitely. I've only watched it back once. I watched it whenever I do runs like that. I don't do them too often. I'll watch them back like once a week later just to kind of make notes for myself for where I could have done better. So I've only watched it once so far, but I do plan to watch it back in the future and just kind of enjoy it more and not be hard on myself, which I have a hard time not doing. So
All right, I have one last thing I want to ask you before we wrap up. You have to tell me why, what, who, the Rainforest Cafe. What is that about?
I mean, I'm just a little old YouTuber trying to get a sponsorship over here from the greatest restaurant in the world. So,
You're really shining their shoes here.
dude,
You're really
I need
saying,
the
is
sponsorship.
this just for sponsorship?
Yeah, I need to get that. I need that Rainforest Cafe sponsorship. If you go to my Twitch page, I have all their locations listed in my bio. I'm just loyal. I just need it. Um, it started.
Why is what?
It started in 2018. I was on a work trip and I saw a flyer for Rainforest Cafe, and in that moment, I was like, "Rainforest Cafe is the #1 tourist destination in the world." So I tweeted that, and they replied to my surprise, and I was just shell shocked. I've never had an encounter with such I don't want to say celebrity, but like entity. It was like it wasn't even like meeting a celebrity, it was like meeting God, right? It was like God spoke to
Okay.
me. In that moment, like my entire body was shaking. So I screenshotted it and tweeted, like, literally like the Rainforest Cafe Twitter responded to me. I'm literally shaking, and they retweeted it. So at that point, we're like, well, this has to be my pinned tweet forever, which it is. And ever since then, I'm just on a mission to get a sponsorship from them, let alone just try and get a little bit of interaction from them. Like they've kind of ghosted me. I've emailed them a couple times. I've tweeted at them a couple times. I think they might have my account blacklisted, to be honest. I'm,
Oh, for whatever reason.
I don't know. I'm just dedicated. I need it. But it's to the point where like if they tweet something, sometimes people will respond like sponsor tomato anus and stuff like that. So
Your name is not helping you.
hey, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I've done YouTube sponsorships, and some people like the name. Some companies really like leaning into it and giving the coupon code anus.
Oh my god. At least it's a unique code.
Yeah, the
There's
people love it.
no doubt in anyone's mind
Exactly.
that if someone buys G Fuel and they use promo code anus,
Like
that it was definitely from you.
yeah, and it's so funny because like I think it's a genius. If I were a company, I would make all my coupon codes and stuff like that. Because then people are like, "What? No way, that's the coupon code." So then what do? They fill up their cart just to test it, and then they put in the coupon code. That oh my god, it worked, and then they press checkout.
That's diabolical.
I know.
Already. Well, I wish you good luck in getting sponsored by the Rainforest Cafe. It
you.
is, in fact, the #1 tourist destination in the world.
Yes.
I'm. You can thank your work for sending you on that work trip, right? All right. Well, listen. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. You are welcome back anytime. Anytime that you want to talk about Fallout or more content. Obviously, I'll be watching. I'll be waiting with bated breath for that Fallout 4 video.
Thank you.
Praying beyond hope that, or hoping beyond hope that there's no more major tech found before you upload the video.
Hopefully not.
Right? Like, there's not like a way to just warp. You can't do Ace in Fallout 4.
Oh, I would cry.
So I'm going to shout you out really quick. You can find my guest today on twitter.com/tomatoanus, @tomatoanus. He is a lovely picture of a dog wearing clothes. That's how you can recognize him. You can subscribe to him on YouTube. Again, same name, tomatoanus. Check out his Speedrun Explained series. Is there anything else I can plug for you? Your Twitch is tomatoanus as well?
Yes.
Twitch.tv/tomatoanus.
Yes. Tomatoanus on all platforms except for Instagram and Reddit. On Instagram, someone snagged the name, so I'm tomato.anus. And then someone snagged the name on Reddit, like before I even came up with the name. So I'm platypus sodomy on there, but it's not like I actually promote my Reddit or Instagram. So it's just YouTube and Twitter are the important ones.
I am a little disappointed that the domain listed in your bio is not tomato.anus, but I'll let it go.
I know.
And thank you again so much for being on. Like I said, you're welcome anytime. And thank you, everyone, for listening and supporting the podcast. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, the rest of your week, rest of your weekend. And, tune in next time. Another great guest for you.